Good morning, and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, and I am here every Sunday from 8 to 9 to provide landowners valuable information you need regarding the Marcellus and natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. If you are looking for landowner information, this is the show for you. At the Clark Law Firm, my focus is on only landowner representation, not companies, not pipeline, not gas companies, only landowners in matters relating to oil and gas, estate planning, doing a lot of gas lease negotiations again where leases are terminating. Another thing that I've talked about recently, doing a lot of, is oil and gas lease amendments and modifications. Seeing a lot more of those, and it's very important that you do get assistance with this, whether it's me or somebody else. Please make sure that you're not just running out and signing anything, not leases, not pipeline agreements, not oil and gas lease amendments and modifications. You want to make sure that you're understanding what's being placed in front of you, because the game is always changing, and companies are very in tune with what they need to do to get people to sign things, and so companies are tending, and landmen are dangling what they say are carrots out there to get people to sign, and you need to be as careful as ever that you understand what you're signing. Not that you shouldn't sign anything, but you understand what you're signing, you understand what's being asked of you. Very, very important. I'm going to talk about a few different things today, and if you're a regular listener, you know what I like to do during the week. Things come up. And over the past few weeks, there's been several things that have came up that I wanted to touch on and make sure that we're talking about. And reminder, if you're needing any representation, you can always contact me directly, but you can go to the websites, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, or you can always contact me directly by telephone at 570-307-0702. And of course, another part of my representation, we have 150 plus clients where we're representing against gas companies for claims that they're being improperly paid their oil and gas lease royalties. So very important. If you even want the free confidential evaluation as to whether I believe the company is breaching your gas lease and not paying you properly, you can give us a call, 570-307-0702. Let you know there. You just send in your lease. If you're getting royalties, send in your royalty check. Just this week, had a response from the company saying, okay, we agree. We're going to go ahead and pay back all of the royalties that we deducted over the past, I think it was a year plus. And then we're also going to stop taking those deductions in the future. So we are having success. You know, some companies are still fighting this issue and intend to fight it, looks like, for a long time. But we have had successes where companies have said, okay, hey, we agree. We're going to go ahead and not take these deductions. In this case, it's going to be tens and tens of thousands of dollars that the landowner is going to receive over the lifetime of their lease when the company doesn't take these deductions compared to taking them. Again, I am Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm, and you're listening to All Things Marcellus, and we are here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Finally, just hitting on this one more time along the royalty deduction issue. You know, if you don't know, there's the big class action case against Chesapeake that we've sought to intervene, and we have intervened, and that is still out there pending. So everybody needs to know, does this apply to them? How does this settlement apply to them, if at all? And if you don't know, you need to know. And what I do is confidential, no obligation to do anything, no fee at all. But I want to make sure that everybody understands, does this proposed settlement, does it apply to you? And if you are leased in whole or in part, so if any of your lease is held by Chesapeake, doesn't have to be the whole lease, but if any of your lease is held by Chesapeake, and even if you're not receiving royalties yet, this proposed settlement may apply to you if you have the market enhancement clause or similar language in your lease. So we need to make sure, does this apply to you? Now, what you do with that information is your decision, but we want to make sure that you know if it applies to you, so you can contact me for any of these concerns and a free confidential evaluation, 570-307-0702. Again, now, what I want to do is I'm going to talk about several items that have came up recently, and I'm going to talk some more general stuff here today, and not break down as many an agreement. I might get into this one agreement, but I'm going to talk some general stuff. And one of the biggest things that I've seen, and give kind of the history, everybody entered into the oil and gas lease, maybe years ago, and now you're sitting around and you're waiting for these royalties that you were promised by the landman many, many years ago in some cases. So you're sitting out there, you're waiting for the royalty checks, and of course, nobody's getting any younger. So here we are, maybe you were leased in 2007, 8, 9, maybe even 2010 or 11. And you're getting up there and you're saying, geez, I haven't seen any of these royalty checks. I don't know if this is ever going to happen. And then you knew back in the day, too, you started to get letters from these companies, getting letters saying, hey, we're interested in purchasing your oil and gas rights. They actually buy the oil and gas rights. And it's very important you understand that. These letters weren't about, hey, we'd like to lease you again or take over a lease whenever your lease ends. No, they're saying we want to buy your oil and gas and mineral rights in most cases for all of time. So essentially what you could think of it kind of simplistically as selling everything that you have, all your rights below the ground as far as oil, gas, and minerals. You're going to sell those, you keep the surface, but you're giving them to this other company. That's a very important, serious transaction or decision, if you're going to make a decision like that you need to really think about. You need to be really, really informed, and you need to understand what you're doing and what those ramifications are going to be. And this probably sounds like a broken record because you need to do that with all your decisions, and especially these decisions involving your property and this hopefully and potentially tremendous asset that you have, and it's typically been in the family for a while, and you intend on keeping it in the family. So once you sell, if you do, your oil and gas rights, those rights are sold forever. So they're not coming back. It's not like a lease that at some point will expire. At some point, maybe that's 50 or 100 years, but at some point it'll expire. However, the gas rights aren't going to, when you sell them, they're not coming back to you. So you need to be very careful about that. I am Attorney Doug Clark. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. And a reminder, I am here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And you can also go back and go to the websites at pagasleaseattorney.com and pipelineattorney.com. We have the shows archived and available. But I've been doing the radio show since August of 2010. So we're coming up on another anniversary here. So I've been doing the show almost 4 years, and so we're very proud of that. I think there's 150 plus hours of shows that are available on the websites. So we do shows on gas leasing, estate planning, you name it, pipelines, water lines, you name the topic, we've done a show about it. I've done a show. Go check it out. You can check it out anytime, pagasleaseattorney.com and pipelineattorney.com. And what we do, too, is we'll put up today's show starting tomorrow. So if you missed today's show or you missed next Sunday's show or you missed last week's show, you can go to the websites and check out the show. We'll get it posted up there, and it'll be available right away. So if you can't make it Sunday from 8 to 9, you can check it out at pagasleaseattorney.com anytime after the show airs in the following day. Okay. Talking about purchasing and selling oil and gas mineral rights. So again, resetting, what happened was after people entered into their leases, there was the time, and I remember with all of these things, with the leases and the pipelines, you are dealing with people who have done this across the country. They've learned from every experience that they've been engaged in. They've learned from negotiating gas leases with people all across the country. They've mastered these techniques, how to cut the best deal for the company. Same thing with the pipeline right-of-way agreement. These are your typically first experiences with these opportunities and these negotiations. These companies have done it all across the country, and every time they do it, they learn. So they come in, they have a plan. They're very smart people coming in planning how to do this. Same thing with purchasing of oil and gas and mineral rights. So what happens? They know that back in 2005, 6, 7, people entered into lease agreements for as low as $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, maybe $100, sometimes a little more, but very low amounts relative to what we saw in the future, meaning they entered into gas leases with relatively small upfront bonuses per acre compared to what was available in the future. So what happened was, we got landowners out there that say, geez, I only signed at $50 per acre for my property as a bonus, and my neighbor signed for $3,000 per acre. Boy, I'm kind of upset about that. Well, I wish I would have got more money. I wish I would have got what my neighbor had. Well, then all of a sudden you go to the mailbox and there's a letter saying, hey, we would like to purchase your oil and gas rights, and we'll give you $1,000 per acre for these rights. Maybe it's $2,000. Sometimes it's even much higher. So they say, hey, we'd like to give you this money to purchase your oil and gas and mineral rights. And you say, well, you know what? I kind of got the shaft, if you will. I got it too low of a money the first time when I leased. Well, here's my chance. I'm going to get now this $2,000 or this $1,000 like my neighbor did. Maybe I might even get more than what my neighbor did. Unlikely, but I'm going to get this increased money because I'm going to go ahead and consider selling these rights, or I'm going to go ahead and sell. Well, the difference is obviously, hopefully, that once you sell these rights, number one, you got to get paid by the company. And then after you get paid, remember, that's it. Those rights are now gone. So if there are royalties generated from that property or those properties, whatever you have, you're not going to see a dime of that money unless you reserved some rights to yourself. So these companies know that there are people out there, landowners are disappointed because they only got $25, $50, $10, $5 per acre bonus when they signed a lease. So if we dangle $1,000 out there per acre to purchase the gas rights, maybe even $750, then we can buy these rights at a very low number, relatively speaking, because we know that it's going to generate royalties for decades. Or we certainly believe it's going to generate royalties for decades. So there's the prime opportunity now. Before a landowner sees any royalties in the area, before they see what may occur, we can swoop in, offer them a per acre bonus, or buy it's not even a bonus, a purchase price per acre that's going to make them feel happy because now they've got this higher price like their neighbors, and they don't even have any idea what type of royalties this property may or may not generate because there is no production in their area. There's no production in their area at this time, so this is a nice little window to pop in, offer them $1,000 to purchase $1,000 per acre, in my example, to purchase these gas rights, pop in, purchase, and the landowner can't say, oh, that's too low of money, because they're not seeing anybody getting royalties around them, so $1,000 per acre sounds good. And remember, these companies have done this all across the country and continue to do this all across the country. So they send out all those letters. It's almost like fishing. They drop this big net all across Susquehanna, Bradford, Tioga, Lycoming, Greene, Washington, Armstrong, pick your county. They throw the net across there and they start picking up these fish. Who is going to go ahead and bite on this offer because they say this is an opportunity for me to get more money than I got in my lease and kind of get what my neighbor's got. And a lot of times people don't even understand that this is a sale and a purchase, a sale for permanent sale forever of these oil and gas rights. So first and foremost, you have to understand that. I'm up against the break. I'm going to talk more about this. I got a little more fired up on this than I thought I was going to be. But I want to talk more about this window. And there's a second window that we're starting to see now in many areas. And it's making me nervous like crazy because I know I see people going to make poor decisions and we're able to help them to avoid those decisions. But I'm sure, not everybody's calling me. So I want to get that word out. I want to make sure that you're doing what's right for you and you're thinking about these things. I am Attorney Doug Clark. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. We'll be back right after this break. All right, welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Let me get a few other things out of the way. Like I say, I'm here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Also, PAGasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. What I think we get a lot of compliments, two outstanding resources for landowners. Whether you're looking for representation, looking for information, check out PAGasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. There's some things there that get you thinking about some things. Check it out. Also, we have all the shows up there archived 150 plus hours of radio show, so you can go check those out as well. We're also on iTunes for free. Just go to podcast section, type in All Things Marcellus. You can listen to us, download us there as well. Check that out. And again, here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we're available by telephone. You can always contact the office at 570-307-0702. And touching on, I have clients all across the state of Pennsylvania. As long as they have land or gas rights in Pennsylvania, I have clients that represent them all over. I said before, distance has never yet been a problem. Had a client in Micronesia, which I have to honestly, I have to be honest and say I had to actually look it up to find out exactly where it is. And I assure you it is very, very far away. I have another client in Canada right now, an active client. So, distance has never really been a problem. So please don't be afraid of that. And if you contact the office and you're not comfortable and you say, hey, you know what, I'd want to be able to go and see this person. Of course, everybody's always invited to the office, but check it out and don't be discouraged by that, because this worked out so well in the past. We can Skype. There's so many different things. So with technology today, what it is, we're able to do a lot of different things and represent people all over the place. Okay, getting back. Sometimes I get kind of fired up on things, and I got to say I'm starting to get fired up, and I never know when it's coming sometimes, but I'm getting fired up because I'm talking about selling oil, gas, and mineral rights when landowners do that. Now, I will say that there are times where it makes sense to do this. However, in my experience, and I have quite a bit of it in this area and with the oil and gas leases and all the development issues, I find it to be a very rare case when it makes sense. I agree at times it can, but those times, in my opinion, are very rare. So the point is, with everything, you need to understand what you're doing. Here I go with my broken record. You need to understand the benefits of this transaction that you may enter into and you're considering, but you have to understand the detriments of this as well. So I'll use this example as a simple example. If you're 75 years old and you don't have any children and you have this property in Pennsylvania and you're able to sell your gas rights, say for $500,000, $1 million, whatever that number is, some big number, it's going to change your life. And you're going to say, you know what? I'm moving to Florida. I'm going down south. I'm going somewhere warmer. This will have me retire. I have nobody to leave these rights to. I'm just going to go ahead and sell it all and just get out of here and go sit on a beach somewhere and have some margaritas and call it a retirement time. And, that can make a lot of sense. That makes sense. But understand that over time, these companies are pretty wise, and they're not, there's some speculation going on, but they're targeting areas and they're not entering into these deals not thinking they're going to make money. So you got to keep that all in mind. So there are times when it may work. Also, in my example, say you had 100 acres of oil, gas, mineral rights with your property. Maybe you go ahead and you sell only a portion. Maybe you sell 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever that number is. Maybe you pick a number. You say, what, I'm going to sell some but keep some because I'm going to hedge my bets here, hedge my future income from this. There's a lot of different things that you can do here. So you really want to watch out. So, okay, I'm going to step back. I'm going to reset. These guys are super smart, experienced, and what they don't have an intelligence, they make up for an experience. They've done this all across the country, and they have a lot of intelligence. So intelligence and experience, that's a nice combination to have on your side. So when you're looking at this, here's what happens. There's been kind of two major phases. Now this has gone throughout, and I'm gonna get to this second phase, but I say two phases, simplifying it a bit, because people and companies have been making these rights to purchase oil and gas rights throughout time, but landowners know who these guys out there. If you're getting these rights, you know what I'm talking about. There was a flurry of these letters several years back, and now all of a sudden they're starting to pop up again. Another kind of theme, look at, you're getting these letters. Just like in leasing, and this is the same in most cases with pipelines and with most agreements that any company needs. The numbers started low and they keep going up and up and up. Now, at some point they don't go up anymore. And I always use this low-hanging fruit, and I don't mean that disrespectful in any way to landowners, But what happens is they send out the lowest offers, and then they look to lease or purchase those people, purchase those rights. So they put out these lower numbers, and they get everybody to sign when they can, or as many people as they can at those numbers, and then they increase the numbers, just like they did in leasing. Everybody who will sign at $50 per acre, let's sign them all up. Okay, well, we hit a lull, nobody else will sign. All right, let's give them $100. Let's give them $75. And they've done that all throughout the process until the point where the shift comes and they start offering less money because now they don't need to. The competition is gone. The geology is established. Whatever that reasoning is, you start seeing it drop down the other way. Same thing with these offers. Back in the day, the earlier ones, when they were offering to buy and purchase these oil, gas, and mineral rights, they're offering at lower numbers. Then they get the people to sell who are going to sell. So what do they have to do now? Well, it's dried up. Nobody's buying. Nobody's selling at these rates that we want to offer. So we're going to have to offer some more money. It's just the way it is. We're going to have to offer some more. So that's what we're seeing. Now, at some point, too, there comes a point where you're not going to see more or a higher number. Well, that's what you have to try to get some good advice and understanding. When is that point? And nobody's going to be able to tell you that. If they're telling you that, either they don't know or they're lying. They can't tell you that because they don't know. Nobody knows that. The only one that knows that is the person who's making the offer as to how high they're willing to go. So, information, again, is key. Quality information experience is key. Let me reset. I am Attorney Doug Clark. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And also, you can check out all the archive radio shows, including this one, starting tomorrow at pagasleaseattorney.com. All right, we're talking about companies making offers to purchase landowners' oil and gas and mineral rights. I said there was kind of like two phases of this, and here's what I mean. Just resetting, I'll do this briefly. Once people started entering into gas leases in 2005, 6, 7, and 8, when these first leases came, they tended to be for lower dollar per acre bonuses. In other words, many people signed at $5, $10, $25, $50, $100 per acre bonus. So what happened was, in 2008, in the spring, things really took off. Depending upon where you were, you started to see these numbers go from hundreds of dollars per acre to thousands of dollars per acre bonus. Well, what happened was, and understandably, people were very disappointed. And of course, these companies, I talk about them being smart, they targeted large landowners. They targeted the farmers. They targeted the hunting clubs. They targeted large acre landowners to get that money leased on the cheap. That's what they did. I see it all the time. The majority of my large acre clients, the majority of them were targeted and leased pretty early on in the process. Not all, but that was the target, and landowners know that out there. So what happened was they leased these properties for $10 to $100, let's say, per acre, and sometimes more. It could be $500, whatever number we pick. So they leased these properties. So now the landowner says, geez, I leased for $100 per acre. My neighbor just leased for $2,500 per acre. And understandably, you're disappointed in that. So now you get a letter in the mail. And maybe you start getting several letters, but you get a letter in the mail. And that letter in the mail says, hey, we'd like to buy your oil and gas rights, and we're going to give you $2,000 per acre. You said, well, geez, that sounds great. That's kind of like what my neighbor got. That's a whole lot of money. And I only got a little bit of money whenever I leased my property, at least relative to what my neighbors got and other people around. So this sounds like a pretty good deal. Well, generally speaking, it's not going to be a good deal. Now, I want to stress, this is not specific advice for any individual. This is general information to get you thinking and hopefully to get you looking into this if you're going to be considering selling anything. So they send this out. You say, wow, this looks like a good deal. Well, companies sending out this blanket offer in the mail, do you think that they're doing that because they think that they're taking some serious risk here? Or do you think they're doing that because they think they can make some money on this process? So, and these are very wealthy individuals doing this. So, okay, you get this and you say, well, now I can make a couple $1,000s per acre. That seems like it makes a lot of sense. And many people sold their gas rights to these companies at that time, these hedge funds and these rich investors. Many people do it. I get calls. I got a call this week from a guy in Manhattan. Hey, I want to buy oil and gas rights. Can you represent me? But it was funny because can you represent me, trying to like entice me here, but then saying, I'd like you to help and introduce me to people who'd be willing to sell, essentially work as a broker for him, which is ridiculous. Obviously not going to occur. But to give you an idea, there are people out there like crazy. They're reading the Wall Street Journal. They're seeing what's going on. They're saying, okay, how can I profit from this? And that's okay. I mean, that's capitalism. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're informed, that landowners are informed with what's going on, that you're not taking advantage of. If you got a good deal and a deal makes sense for you and you want to do the deal, do the deal. But you need to know, is it a good deal? What are my options? What are the benefits of this contract? What are the detriments? So company sends these offers back in 2008, 9, 10, and there's no operations going on. There's no development going on. There's no royalties being paid around you. And you see this offer of $2,000 per acre to buy your rights. You say, geez, I don't even know if these are ever going to produce. That's a lot of money. I can get that in the next 30 days. You know what? Let's go for it. Let's do it. Now, here you are 3-4 years later, and people around you are starting to get royalties, and royalties vary extreme variation in royalties from area to area. No doubt about it. I look at royalty checks every single day from across the state. Very big difference in what people are getting. But as a general rule, whatever that company is offering you to purchase the rights, you can be pretty darn sure that there's a strong likelihood that they're going to make more money over time in the royalty payments. So I do see people who sold their gas rights, and now I see other people in their gas producing units getting royalties, and sometimes they're very, very substantial. And the guy, unfortunately, who sold his gas rights, and so if you sell them all, doesn't get a dime of that money, not a penny. None of it. So now here they are with their one-time bonus, and everybody else is going to their mailboxes once a month and getting a royalty check, and sometimes quite substantial. And these are going to keep coming over time and time and time as more wells come online, and these wells are producing. Yes, there's a decline rate, but there's going to be more wells drilled. You may see this property generate income for 50 or more years, maybe 100 years. Who knows? And you've sold this for a one-time payment. So the companies, again, they know when they send these out at the beginning in this process, the first wave, we got a lot of disgruntled people out here who entered into leases and their neighbors entered into leases much higher. So let's throw them out there this bonus to buy, and it's not even a bonus. Let's throw them out there to this offer to buy their gas rights, similar to what maybe that gas company bonus is that their neighbors signed for. And we can purchase the gas rights. So all future royalties come to us. You got to understand that. Now, also, you have to understand that when you sell these gas rights and you sell this lease, you got to be careful now, because that company they're dealing with that new entity, the individual or the company that bought your oil and gas lease. So they have the lease, not you anymore. So your surface rights and your ability to negotiate or discuss are going to be limited, and you got to be careful, because that's where it gets into how this transaction occurs and what you can do to maintain any power. So you need to, if you decide that you're going to sell these rights, you need to understand, and you need to understand what you're giving them and how much flexibility this company is going to have, and the producing company, the gas driller, are they going to be able to do things on your property that you wouldn't want, that you might have otherwise had the power to prevent. For example, if you have a lease that says no drilling within 750 feet of your house or 1,000 feet of the house, and you just sell that lease and you don't make any reservations, the person who buys the lease or the company that buys the lease, they can conceivably waive that restriction, and you could end up seeing a well site much closer to your house, a roadway, pipelines, whatever that may be, within 500 feet, say, of your house. So you got to watch out for these things. These are things you have to understand. All right, I'm up against the second break. I'm going to finish up about this first wave, but I'm going to talk about this second wave now. So please, if you have a gas rights offer, please don't sign it. You can contact me, contact somebody, and if you know your friends are, don't sign these. Get information and make an informed decision. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Be back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark. Reminder, we're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and all the shows are archived on the websites at pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Go check out the websites. A lot of great information. If you need help on this topic, if you're looking for assistance, you need representation, I try not to make this a big commercial, but you can always contact me, 570-307-0702. But whether you call me, call somebody, understand this, because guys making these mineral rights offers, I didn't even get into yet, who are they? Where are they from? Look them up. Do some research. Are they a post office box somewhere? Look this up. Get some research. Okay, so moving on here, we said people enter into leases. They entered into gas leases at hundreds of dollars per acre. Then they see their neighbors enter into leases at thousands of dollars per acre. Then in a short time thereafter, a year or two following, they start getting these letters in the mail, offers to buy their gas rights for a few $1,000s per acre. Remember, these are offers to buy the gas rights, not lease the gas rights. You sell the gas rights. When you sell them in the entirety, you get this check, assuming everything goes according to plan, and then you get nothing else, no future royalties. You're also typically giving up rights that you may have had under your lease regarding location of pads. Even sometimes, perhaps even your lease may have precluded certain things, but when you sell that lease, and if you don't reserve those back to yourself, you're giving up those rights as well. And I'm dealing with a situation like that now, which is an absolute nightmare for my client, where the gas rights were sold, and now there's all this activity going on, and the person who owns the gas rights, that entity, says we can do whatever we want. We own the gas rights, so we don't have to consult with you regarding any of this surface activity. You waived all those rights in that transaction. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay. I said we got two waves kind of this, and there's two waves, but there was always these letters going out to purchase gas rights. But the second wave that I'm talking about, more recently, what we're seeing, and I'm getting calls on this quite frequently, and I know it's happening all over the place. What we're seeing now is we're getting closer to production. So what companies are doing now who buy oil and gas and mineral rights, what they're doing is they're looking at very closely, and they have a lot of information, where this development is occurring, where these units are formed, what's going on, where the drilling is. They're also looking at how productive these areas are. So what are they doing? They are now coming in and targeting specific areas that are just about to produce. Sometimes I have one of these now where a client calls and says, hey, I'm considering selling my gas rights. Well, a little bit of research, we find out, and this person's frustrated. They're not getting oil and gas and royalties at this time, or gas royalties. They're not getting any, and they're frustrated, and they're getting older, and they're in retirement age, and they say, you know what? This is really frustrating. I thought I was going to have all this. They told me I was going to have all this money. I was going to get these royalties. It isn't happening. I got this offer. It's a nice little chunk of money, or a big chunk of money. I think I want to go ahead and do it. Well, we do some research, and we find out that, hey, you have all of your property is in a production unit, which means that once that starts producing gas, you're going to get paid royalties based upon the amount of acres that you have in the unit, on the size of that unit, and what your royalty percentage is in your lease. That's how you're going to get paid. So, we look at this and find out, hey, all your property is unitized. So that's great. So if you had, this will make it simple, so you had 10 acres and all 10 are in a unit, you're going to get paid 10 acres worth of royalty. You might have 10 acres and only have 1 acre in a unit. And when that starts producing, you're not getting royalties for all 10 acres. You're only getting royalties for the acreage that is actually in that unit. So it's good to have all of your acres in a unit or multiple units. So this gentleman has all of his acres in a unit. So he's going to receive royalties for all of his property once this unit starts producing gas. Well, we then do some deeper digging, and we say, okay, what is the status? How long into the future do we anticipate that this unit's going to start producing gas? Can we contact the companies, get the drill schedule? Are any wells drilled now? Where do the pipelines stand? So start doing some research to understand, hey, if I do this, what's going to happen? If I don't do this, what can I estimate as to when I may see royalties? Also, do we have any information of how these wells are producing around you? What can we look at to try to inform you as the landowner to make a better decision? So in this case, doing this research, we find out there's actually a well drilled that is producing gas. It's going into the pipeline. It's being transported off of this unit that's generating royalties. However, those royalty checks haven't started getting paid out to the landowner. Maybe it's even been, I think in this case it was several months already that it's been producing gas. And for various reasons, and we see this, and I know it's very frustrating, I assure you, because we get these calls all the time too, that the unit may be producing for 6, 7, 8 months, sometimes even a year, that gas is being pumped off of this unit, that the wells are producing, a well or wells are producing gas, but the royalty checks haven't gone out. So in this case, let's use an example and say we find out, and I can't remember the exact time, but it was several months. So let's say it was like 9 months. So we find out that this well that's on this, it's in this unit, has been producing gas for 9 months, but the royalty checks haven't gone out yet for various reasons. So talk to people at the company and find out, get an idea what type of numbers, what type of production this is. Now, they're not always going to tell you exactly what to expect because they want to be careful. They want to cover themselves and they don't want to give any misinformation, and they surely don't want to speculate. At least any speculation is going to make them uncomfortable. So, but we find out, hey, this thing has been producing. So landowner, if you can just kind of hold out another month or two, because that's when they anticipate the checks are going to start rolling out, you can see number one, you're going to start receiving royalties. You can see what type of royalties you're going to see or you're going to receive. And by the way, the company said they intend on drilling another well in the next 3 months that's going to go online or start producing gas next year. So you're on the cusp of receiving royalties. Well, these companies that buy oil and gas and mineral rights, they know this. They're studying this. And when you follow them back sometimes, some cases, and this is just something I have seen, that at least in one case, and I believe it's more, you start to see some interesting relationships between the companies or the entities that are buying oil and gas rights and gas companies themselves. So I'm not saying there's anything improper. I'm just saying look at what the company is or who the person is, what is going on behind the scenes of the company that's making this offer. And I assure you that they're going to have pretty darn good information in most cases. Well, how do they get that? They also have the ability to communicate with the companies. And sometimes there may even be some sort of relationship where that gas company has a subsidiary or a relationship with the company that's actually seeking to buy your royalties. So please check this out. Who are these companies? Because many times, I mean, they're just they're not truly paper companies, but they don't even have physical addresses. They have P.O. boxes. So check that out. Do some research there. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. You miss any of today's show, go to the website, pagasleaseattorney.com. Go to pipelineattorney.com. Check out today's show and the last 150 plus shows I think we're at that are available on the website, so you can check those out as well too. Okay, talking about selling oil, gas, mineral rights. So companies now, they know, and I'll give you this example, this gentleman who's on the verge of receiving royalties, and he gets an offer to purchase his oil and gas rights. Well, this offer now is considerably higher than what his original letters were that he received a few years back. Well, now they're coming in, the companies, they know what they're doing. They're coming in to make this offer because they know royalties are about to start flowing. And my client is frustrated because he's not receiving royalties and he doesn't even know if this is ever going to happen. So, but a little bit of research and we find out not only is it going to happen, it's going to happen in the next 1 to 3 months. You're going to get your first check. Now, I recognize once you get that check, maybe that check is really low and you say, geez, that's really low. Maybe I'm better off to sell. And you want to go ahead then and try to accept that offer. Maybe that offer goes away. But I'd say probably it hasn't. I mean, I haven't seen that yet, but I recognize that that's a possibility. But remember, if you're unitized and you're on the verge of getting royalties and you see this higher number offered by the company that's offering to purchase your gas rights, you can be darn well sure that they know this as well. That they know that this property is about to generate royalties. They know what's going on. They have a darn good idea of what type of royalties this property may generate. I deal with these companies, on occasion, and recently, unfortunately, fairly often, but I deal with them. I can give them information. Within an hour, they call me back. They know everything. They know as much as I do, and sometimes more. And they have their maps. They know everything about it. And sometimes they even know, on the bigger clients that have approached me, they even know the name, the parcel. They know everything about it. And they've been making these offers for years. They're studying these areas because they're potential enormous financial opportunities for them. So these guys really know. So you have to be careful, and you have to understand your circumstance. So what you see now is before, at first, we had landowners out there saying, I leased my property and didn't get that much money relative to my neighbors. Here's a letter in the mail offering to buy my oil and gas rights at, say, a couple $1,000s per acre. That sounds great. I think I'll take it. Never getting a future royalty. But that's an opportunity. If you're on the other side, that's an opportunity to make an offer, to purchase rights, and to get these rights on the cheap in most cases. Now, fast forward. Now we got landowners who are sitting there. They leased years ago, and they haven't seen royalties yet. And they're frustrated they haven't seen royalties. Well, these companies look and they say, hey, here's a unit formed. It's not producing yet. This is an opportunity. It's about to start producing, so we're going to get a return on our investment very quickly, in some cases almost immediately. So let's go ahead and hit these guys with an offer. And, if you had the ability to communicate with everybody in your production unit, that area where the well pad and wells are going to service, you can look, say there was 20 landowners who are going to be in that production unit. Well, these guys see that, and they send these letters to all 20 people. Say there was a Clark production unit. Well, they send out these letters to all 20 people making this offer to buy these gas rights. So, of course, they see this as an opportunity, as a quick return. So it's another fishing time. Except now it's kind of like they find a sweet spot. They found the good fishing hole. They found a unit. So they're going to just fish in that unit and try to get everybody they can to sign, especially if they know that unit's going to be good. They know how many wells are going to be producing or drilled, what's on the schedule. They're looking at the permits. They're looking at everything. They're studying all of this information with tremendous resources. Think about it. They're making millions of dollars in offers. You don't think they're doing this research, and they have these people looking at this, and they themselves are looking at it with maps and drills datas and permits and all of these different things, and they're looking at these things. They're looking to take advantage of this situation. And again, hey, this is capitalism. It's not something that's illegal. It's not something that's improper. But in any negotiation, any transaction, the more informed you are, the better you're going to make out in this transaction. In a lot of cases, you're going to be best off not to do it. Don't enter into the agreement, but be informed. Okay, we're up against it again. We get the last section. I'm going to wrap this whole part up, but hopefully this is getting you thinking about these things. If you get a letter to sell your oil and gas rights, and you're thinking about doing it, in most cases, I say rip it up and throw it away. Or just file it away so you keep it in your records, and maybe, and most likely in the future, you're going to say, remember this letter? Thank heavens I didn't do that. But again, this is not specific advice for anyone, but general advice. And if nothing else, we got to have you thinking. If you get this letter, don't just rush to do it. And also, as with the land guys, these guys are nice. They're not going to be mean in this transaction. They're going to be great guys and tell you how great they are. So don't be fooled. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus, here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and I'll be back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. And a reminder, we're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And if you miss any of today's shows, you can go back. They're all archived on the websites at pagasleaseattorney.com. So if you missed today's show, you can go there tomorrow. We should have it up tomorrow morning at pagasleaseattorney.com. You go back, listen to the show. This show, as I start sometimes, I have sitting here in front of me, I wanted to talk about subsurface easements. So we talked generally about roadway agreements. Was going to talk about some staging and storage areas. Going to talk about some surface use agreements, well site agreements, some litigation issues. We're getting more and more involved with litigation and dispute. And I was going to give you a break too on royalty issues, but I'm looking at my list. I have all these things to talk about, and I got rolling first on selling oil and gas rights, and that's the show today. That's what we're going to talk about. But I do want to just touch on and say, I'm representing many people with several different companies right now who are getting well pads on their property. Number one, when you get that notice that you're getting a well pad on the property, let me tell you, it's not always a good thing. You can't necessarily stop it, but not necessarily a good thing. You need to make sure that you're fully aware of the lease and you're not giving up any lease rights. What's happening, I'm finding, is these companies are going out to the landowner, saying you're getting a well site, saying all these great things about how great this is going to be, trying to get them to sign something, and then the landowner's waiving all of these lease rights with areas that they may have input. It's much better. If you have a 100-acre property, it's a heck of a lot better to have 100 acres and get 100 acres worth of production, in my mind, than having a 10 and 15-acre well pad on your property that's going to be there for the next 50 to 100 years. So you're getting a well pad. It's not necessarily a good thing, but if you're going to get it, we want to make sure you're maximizing this situation. We want to make sure that we're looking at your lease rights and you're not waiving anything. I've seen companies come out, put in well sites, and have landowners sign subsequent agreements for the well sites and offer them agreements that pay them less money than what they're entitled to under their oil and gas lease. You got to be informed on this. A lot of times there's not a lot that can be done, but sometimes there is a lot that can be done. And as we have landowners who have stronger leases that were done in 2009, 10, 11, and companies, and even after, and companies want to put well sites on the property, well, you as a landowner may have a lot of ability to have input on where the site's going to be, maximize compensation, minimize the size of the site, the location of the roadway, which is going to be there, for our lifetimes and well beyond. So there's a lot of things there. So they become even more interesting to work on because there's a lot of things that can be done to benefit the landowner. So bottom line, if you have an agreement from a company to get a well site, I suggest you get assistance as soon as possible. Again, you can always contact me, but if it's not me, somebody else is experienced and understand what they're doing. You can always call 570-307-0702. I'm not doing that as a commercial. I want you to get some assistance. I'm representing, I think, 4 or 5 people right now, and in every one of them, we're changing language, which the landowner sees and says, hey, yeah, I'm really glad we're doing this. I didn't realize that. And also watch, because I had another guy, I think I told this story before. He came in, the company had all these roadways going across the property at $3 and $5 per foot, which is way less than what the market is for roadways of this kind, which aren't authorized. So, they go and they act like, the land guys act like this is such a good deal and this is what we pay everybody. Remember, if everybody gets a crappy deal, if everybody gets a terrible deal, is that fair to make sure that everybody else does? Or I should say, if your neighbor gets a bad deal, why should you get a bad deal? And the company say in the spirit of fairness, well, we want to be fair to everybody, so we want to give everybody a terrible deal because we were able to give your neighbor, we were able to suck your neighbor into a bad deal, so we want to give you one too because we need to be fair to him. That's outrageous reasoning. Outrageous. But that's what they do all the time. And so you turn around and say, you want to be fair. How about being fair to me? Because when I signed my lease, I got $500 and 15%. And I know you signed a guy up the road for $6,000 and 20%. How about we be fair about that? Well, sir, markets change. Things are different now. Well, sir, Mr. Company Guy, things have changed. You don't have the right to do this. So let's go ahead and let's get a good deal. Let's get a fair deal. Let's get a deal that makes sense for me as the landowner. And, they have plenty of money. Think about it. They're leasing these people, your neighbors, at all this money. They're paying a lot of other people 18, 19, 20, 21% royalty, and you're asking to get a fair roadway deal. You should have that. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9, so back again now. I want to get back to, we're going to finish up on this selling of the oil, gas, and mineral rights. Please, 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 if you are going to sell these your oil, gas, and mineral rights, please get somebody to assist you and get somebody to talk to you about this. When somebody calls me about this and I talk to them, I want to make sure that they understand every potential negative. I've said this before, and this is how I practice law for my whole life, to say, look at this. We can always look at the positives. We can always look at the bright side. We can always look at what the benefits are. They're easy. Right in front of me is a letter saying we're going to give you so many thousands of dollars to do this. Say it's $200,000. That's a ton of money. That's a real nice, easy, clear, bright side. That's a real easy benefit to look at. I do this, I'm going to get $200,000. Okay, that's simple. Let's focus now on what are the negative aspects of this. Nobody is just handing you a check for $200,000 because they're nice. They're doing it, unless you have good parents or relatives or something like that. But they're not doing it just because they're nice guys. I assure you of that in these cases. They're doing it because they believe they can generate much more, or the property and gas rights will generate much more income than what they're offering you. So they're doing it that way. Now, there's speculation going on, but in most cases, they're going to be winners. I was just talking to one of the guys, in this case I'm working on, and he's like, well, I got to talk to one of my partners. He's on his annual European vacation for several weeks. Well, who goes on European vacations annually for several weeks? These guys who make these type of business deals. These guys that have it. And look, again, it's capitalism. You're allowed to do this, but as a landowner, as an oil and gas and mineral rights owner, capitalism on your side also says get the best deal that you can. Be informed. Please don't be taken advantage of. That's what it boils down to, is making sure that you understand everything. And if you want to do a deal, whatever that number is, do the deal with that number. But don't be taken advantage of. Get a fair deal. Understand it. And when you understand everything, then you want to move forward, hey, that's fine. But make sure you understand, because a lot of times people are doing this and not thinking these things through. You may say to me, or we would talk and say, well, I'm thinking about doing this. And I say, well, you know what? I know your neighbor's in a unit, and I'm aware of what that unit is producing. Or I talked to a company guy. You're looking at, though I can't tell you the specific amounts, nobody can, but you're looking at a substantial opportunity here. There's tremendous potential as to what's going to occur for production, and we think it's going to be in this type of time frame based upon the information available. Now, that's not going to be information that you're going to have with complete certainty, but it's information that you weigh against what is in front of you. The offer of, in my example, say $200,000, well, that's pretty certain. As long as it gets paid, that's written right there. But future production has uncertainty. But what we do is we try to get as much information as we can to limit the uncertainty, to make it more clear, to allow that the picture in front of you and making these decisions, to add more information to it, to make it more clear, to help you to make this decision. In most cases, in my experience, it's a bad deal for landowners. In most cases, I can conjure up cases where it makes sense. It does make sense, but those are generally rare. And you may be in a position where it does make sense, but that's a rare position. So, but if you're going to do it, the investment of time and effort and money to learn more, in my opinion, has to occur, because you may end up saving yourself or making yourself even hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of dollars more by changing the decision, by maybe not selling all the rights, selling a portion. There's so many different ways that you can structure this if you decide that this is the best thing for you. So you got to look at this. You got to look at every piece of this puzzle to make the right decision. Again, they've been doing this across the country for many, many years. You're getting this letter in the mailbox offering a tremendous amount of money in a lot of cases, or at least a substantial amount of money per acre to purchase these gas rights. In most cases, nowadays, that offer per acre is worth more than what you could sell your property for per acre in most cases. Well, why is that? Because this company anticipates and has good reason to believe that the oil and gas royalties are going to be substantially higher than that offer they're making. Thinking about it, they're sending you letters in the mail, sending letters offering thousands of dollars per acre to buy the gas rights, sending you letters in the mail because they believe with a lot of confidence. They're not just throwing money away. These European vacations annually don't pay for themselves. You need to make money to do these things, and these deals are going to make them a lot of money over time. And that's what they're looking at. Again, I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9. I want to leave then with this and remind everybody, if you're getting royalty payments, if you're getting royalties and you feel that the company is taking deductions that may be improper, and what I do is you can send me that check, send me your royalty, or send me your lease, send me your royalty statements. I'll look at it, get back to you in writing, and let you know whether I feel the company is breaching your contract. Now, it's not saying that they're taking too much royalties or deductions. I don't know. I don't know what those contracts are with them and the pipeline companies. We'll get back to you and let you know whether I feel that there's a breach because they're not paying the royalties properly and they're taking deductions when your lease agreement, in my opinion, doesn't authorize that. I'll give you a free, confidential, no obligation evaluation to anybody. You can contact us anytime, 570-307-0702. And if you want to find out whether you're part of this whole class action, contact us as well. We'll give you that opinion. And whatever you do with that information is entirely up to you. But please, get the information. I am Attorney Doug Clark again. This is All Things Marcellus. Have a great week. We'll see you next week, 8 to 9 a.m. Have a great week, everyone.